It used to be that the ill effects of climate change happen somewhere else, but increasingly savage storms, heat waves and capricious weather patterns are to be seen everywhere now. As world leaders gather in New York for a UN summit this month to galvanize action before next year's climate change summit in Paris, reporters ask what is to be done and who by. A sort of calm after the storm. It's 10 months after Super Typhoon Haiyan barreled across central Philippines last year, killing at least 6,000 people in the storm and wave surge. Dislodged families are resettling right in the zone designated no settlement. They've no choice.
Our house was destroyed and fell apart. It seems like this is the end of the world, that people will be washed out to have a new generation. Nearly all my family is missing until now. Their bodies were not yet recovered.
The accompanying 15 to 25-foot wave surge was new in a country long used to typhoons. Had people heeded the warnings, they might have fled to high ground, but they didn't, and Haiyan, christened Yolanda here, hit land early morning.
Yolanda, when it came in, it just went through like a cannonball and just rolled everything out of its way. The storms are getting stronger. They've become more unpredictable. The devastation is on a much larger scale, on a much larger area.
So what to do beyond the emergency response? First, rebuild lives and livelihoods, help people adapt. This is a fishing community, and these glass fibre boats are sturdier and travel further than the smashed wooden boats they replace. Then target aid with multiple benefits, like this Red Cross secure housing project for 20,000 people.
Aside from what we're doing now, what you've seen around here in housing, we're also going to teach these communities how to become more resilient so that they can provide for themselves for at least 1 or 2 weeks, so that when aid comes in, it's the right kind of aid to the right number of people.
Third, and here's the rub for the EU and world leaders at the New York summit, deal with the issue at source.
If I had 10 minutes with these world leaders whose industry is affecting weather, I would let them know that, first of all, it is happening whether you acknowledge it or not. Secondly, a large part of the world's population live in countries like mine.
Countries where more and more people hit by the effects of climate change flee to the cities for work and security. Metro Manila is a megacity of 25 to 30 million people, almost a third of the Philippines' population. After Yolanda, it swelled by tens of thousands. Climate change affecting a nation's economic and social fabric.
We've been telling a lot of countries already, especially developed countries who've not felt this kind of typhoons, that we really have to work together and address this, both from a reduction of carbon emission side so that we lessen global warming, as well as from adaptation.
Coincidentally, 2 months before the typhoon hit, WWF predicted such an event in 2030, 16 years away. So, as news of a surge in CO2 emissions surfaces from the World Meteorological Organization, what's her message to the developed nations?
Keep your promises. Promises of reduction have been made even as far back as Kyoto, and yet we've not seen enough of that. Promises in terms of financing.
From the EU side, the message is indeed we're all in this together, because CO2 reduction is a collective responsibility. Low-emitting countries now won't remain like that forever. The EU sees itself as a leader by example, but many say it's not nearly brave or radical enough.
The EU is always pretending to lead the world, which they might have done back a couple of years ago, but at this stage we're not. It's always the financing. We have been promising $100 billion by 2020, and there's still not much really being pledged. So they're always the developing countries. It's for them the test. How serious are the rich countries? And until now, they are right by saying that they don't seem to be very serious.
The next months are crucial. After New York, the EU will define its 2030 targets in October. Then, late next year, it's the UN's Paris summit, where hopes will be high for an ambitious global climate deal.